What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellowship. My name is Kyle. In this video, we're doing a half PPR mock draft here on Yahoo Fantasy. I'm going to be picking from the 7th spot in a 12-team league. Let's hop right into a screen share and get it going. It looks like the draft's going to start in a little over a minute. And then I want to shout out, this mock draft was requested by Eric495. He asked if we can do a mock draft from the 7th pick, Yahoo Fantasy. We got all the standard roster settings here, and it's a 12-team league. So shout out to Eric. This one's for you. We'll get this done and see what we can do to help you out, my man. It's gonna be a fun one. I do like the Yahoo half PPR setting. It's gonna make us look at running backs a little bit earlier than we would on a full PPR website. I did put Tony Pollard as the thumbnail of this video. If I can get him round 2, that would be ideal. But I'm noticing now he is ranked 13th, so we might not be able to get him. We'll try and figure out who we can get for you at number 7. And yeah, if you guys have any other mock draft needs, check out the playlist that I'm going to put, I think, into the comments there. I've been doing a ton of mock drafts all summer long here. So find your, Yahoo Sleeper, ESPN, whatever you need. Draft picks should be there. And if you want to join me for a live ESPN mock draft, you guys can come join me Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Central Time. I post the lobby link in the comments about 15 minutes before the show starts. So if you guys want to do a live mock draft with us, I do get a handful of people in the comments in the chat that will draft with us too. So we'll see. We'll see you guys Wednesday night for sure. Otherwise, yeah, we're in the thick of it now, guys. Preseason week 1's under books. We got preseason week 2 coming up. I don't know if we're going to see many starters play week 3 of the preseason. So hopefully you guys have not drafted yet, and we'll get some more information along the way. Let's see here if I can filter by the draft board for you guys. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Let's see. And Christian McCaffrey, the top 3 players off the board. I'm just trying to make sure my zooms are all good to go here for you guys. And yeah, at the 7th pick, I'm not quite sure where I want to look yet here. We got 3 receivers off the board. Nick Chubb went at 1.04, and I'm assuming this should be probably Austin Eckler. He goes Tyreek Hill. So if this is the situation there, Eric, Eckler's the easy pick here. If Eckler were gone, I probably would take Bijan Robinson. Those are the 2 running backs that I'm looking at here with the 7th overall pick. I probably would take both running backs over Tyreek and Cooper Kupp. I think I just prefer locking in that stud running back one. So I'm going to take Austin Eckler here at the 7th overall pick. And then I do have my projections pulled up here too. And I have Austin Eckler as my number 1 running back in half PPR even. So we get my number 1 running back, which feels pretty good. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, so again, if you're picking at 7, I mean, Nick Chubb wouldn't be a terrible pick here, but obviously if Eckler or CMC fall at 7, absolutely love those picks. I think the first 4 picks in the half PPR draft should be any combination of Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CMC, and Eckler. Those should be the top 4 picks. After that, it gets, that's where the questions come in, whether it's Kupp, Tyreek, sometimes people like Travis Kelce. I haven't seen Nick Chubb go this high, but in a half PPR, I do like Nick Chubb a little bit. But I'm pretty happy with the Austin Eckler fall here to the 1-7. After I take Austin Eckler, you see Travis Kelce. There's Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor. I think, guys, if you're drafting right now, or this coming weekend, I think I'm just going to pass on Jonathan Taylor. Take guys that are healthy, take guys that are in better situations. For me, I'd rather have Bijan, Saquon. There goes Tony Pollard at 13. I'm taking those guys over Jonathan Taylor right now. Jonathan Taylor should probably be a late 2nd round pick. He was on, I read a quote that said he's basically, if he's not 100% going into a week, he's not going to play. He's got no reasons to play. He's trying to play for a new contract. So he needs to be as healthy as possible to get that next contract. So I'm slightly concerned with Jonathan Taylor. I think if he's a 1st round pick, I'm out. Open to him being a late 2nd round pick in half PPR, but ideally he's a 3rd round pick when you're drafting here. So for me, I'm kind of just swerving on that. We're almost up to pick though. Round 2 is Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, Derrick Henry, AJ Brown. And then we're on deck here. Let's just see who sticks out. Same thing for Josh Jacobs, man. I'm just kind of nervous. He's not in camp yet. I don't know if he's going to miss a couple games. I think right now I prefer taking someone that's got a little bit more clarity. Amon-Ra St. Brown just went. That would have been a great pick as well. So we're looking at Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs. If you want a Raider, I'm going to go with Devontae. I do like Garrett Wilson quite a bit here. I think he makes sense. Jalen Waddle also makes sense here. We're not taking Ramondre Stevenson. They just had Ezekiel Elliott sign there today. So this is kind of tough. I think it's between Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. I'm going to go with the youth here. I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson. Again, I do like Devontae Adams quite a bit, but he's on the wrong side of 30 for a receiver, And 2, I don't really trust the Raiders as much. Not sure if I trust the Jets as much either, but I'm just gonna kind of lean with the youth here and grab Garrett Wilson. I did like Chris Olave there too. That's kind of a tough spot there, Eric. If you get into that spot, I would take AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown in a heartbeat if they were there. Those would be the better picks for sure. So hopefully you can get St. Brown or AJ Brown to fall to you. One of the Brown receivers, I think, is the way to go. Not interested at running back, though. At 2.6, I didn't like any of the names that were there. So it's either one of the Browns, or I guess if Derrick Henry or Tony Pollard were to fall, I think that would be probably my decision. So it's shaping up for you to take a running back in the first round, get your wide receiver round 2, and then we'll see what's available here at the 3rd round for us. But after I took Wilson, you got Chris Olave, Devontae Adams, Joe Mixon, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Jacobs round out the 2nd round. Patrick Mahomes and Calvin Ridley go at the top of the 3rd. And I'm probably looking at receiver again here at 3.7. I'll see if any running backs stick out. But one of my biggest draft strategies this season has been to take a stud running back and then load up on receiver, and then eventually there's going to be a part of the draft where the running backs start to look pretty good again. So we'll see. And yeah, Ramondre Stevenson, Jahmyr Gibbs go, Breece Hall, Najee Harris. For me, this is probably Devonta Smith or T. Higgins, maybe even DK Metcalf. I don't mind Travis Etienne, but again, I mentioned I'm going to like some of the running backs a little bit later, but I mean, getting a potential stud in Devonta Smith or T. Higgins makes a lot of sense. We both love the Eagles and the Bengals passing offenses, so I think that's where I'm going to lie here. I'm going to take Devonta Smith. I think he and A.J. Brown are both fantastic receivers. If anything happens to A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith's a top 5, top 10 wide receiver. Same thing with T. Higgins. We'll just take Devonta Smith here, who I think is going to catch more passes than T. Higgins. And maybe just as many, if not more, touchdowns. So there we go. We got 2 young studs at the wide receiver position paired with Austin Eckler. We'll see what comes back. I'm probably still going to want maybe one more wide receiver. With the Yahoo settings, we start 2 receivers, 2 running backs, and we get 1 flex. So I'll see what happens here. I'm probably going to want to fill that flex with a wide receiver, but we'll see. Travis Etienne and Breece Hall go. With the Ezekiel Elliott signing for Ramondre Stevenson, Stevenson should be at least a full round after these guys right now. I think I have him as like my RB 15 or 16 or something in the projection. So let me see where he fell to. Wow, in half PPR, he fell quite a bit. He's RB 23 in half PPR. So he needs to tumble a little bit. Full PPR, I think he was the RB 15 or 16. Just not great. Ezekiel Elliott's going to vulture some touchdowns and some carries. Ramondre's still going to be a good pass catching back for that Patriots offense, but full PPR only for Ramondre Stevenson, I would say at this point. After I took Devonta, you see Etienne, Breece Hall, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, and Amari Cooper round out the 3rd round. J.K. Dobbins goes, who's back in camp, by the way, finally off the PUP list. Not sure if he's ever going to get a new contract with them before the season starts, but glad to see him in camp again, and he's going to continue to rise in his ADP as he gets back on the field. Najee Harris goes. We can start to look ahead now and see what we got brewing here. DK Metcalf would be a smash pick if he's there. I don't hate grabbing a tight end like Mark Andrews. If we wanted to do that, I'm fine with that. I do like some of the running backs in this range for half PPR. I really, really like Dameon Pierce. I actually have him as my 12th running back ranked in half PPR. So I don't hate him. Metcalf just went. Metcalf would have been the pick. I don't hate Debo in this. Some of the receivers, these receivers don't really stick out from one another at the moment right now. So maybe, again, I like TJ Hawkinson as well. Kenneth Walker is not going to catch passes. Sanders, I'm not sure about the Panthers offense. I'm not sure about the Rams offense. I'm not sure about the Texans offense. I do like Dameon Pierce quite a bit, but I think what we're going to do with this pick, the receivers, man, none of them are really sticking out either here. So this is a tough spot, especially in a half PPR league. I'm going to grab Dameon Pierce here. He's one of my favorite running backs this season. I think the Texans were bad last year, but they still fed him a decent amount of points. And I think he's going to be more used in the passing game. So we get my running back 2 here. Dameon Pierce, RB2, Austin Eckler's our RB1, Garrett Wilson, Devonta Smith. If you wanted, Eric, if you're still watching, if you wanted to take Walker, Sanders, Akers, I think this is a good spot to pull your RB2 here. I think we're going to like the receivers at the 5 and the 6th round. when we're up to pick here. So I like the strategy of grabbing a running back 2 here. I think it makes a lot of sense. There were probably 4 or 5 guys on the board that I liked. So I'm totally cool with that strategy there. And my preferred strategy in a 1 QB league is I want to be the last guy to take a QB. If I can hit on some of the mid guys, like Justin Herbert's probably my favorite quarterback to draft this year. I love Joe Burrow as well. Justin Fields is a good pick. So was Trevor Lawrence. I think those 4 QBs are kind of the hot spot because you get pretty good value on them in the 4th, 5th, 6th, whatever rounds. But otherwise, I like to wait to be the last guy to take a QB because there's just not that much difference. If we go to the quarterback numbers here and look at the projections, like sure, Joe Burrow at 364, Lawrence 331, Herbert 340, Dak Prescott 335, and then there's kind of a drop off. Tua and Deshaun Watson are kind of fringe, QB1s there, but otherwise every quarterback's around 300 points. So grab 2 of those guys, I think, is my preferred strategy this year. And then just play the matchups, make it work. And if you want to get if say you have a receiver, say you had DK Metcalf and you want to get Geno Smith on the team, I think that makes a lot of sense. But we'll see. After I take Dameon Pierce, you see Lamar Jackson, TJ Hawkinson, Justin Fields, Kenneth Walker, and then DJ Moore. He is in the best balls that I've been doing. He is rising up draft boards into the early 4th round right now. So I think in a half PPR, it's okay. I think he's got more value in standard and half PPR leagues. I don't know how many catches per game he's going to get, but I know he's going to be productive with those opportunities. And then Terry McLaurin finishes out the 4th round for us here. So again, 5th round, I'll consider a quarterback here if it makes sense. Otherwise, we're probably going to wait. We'll evaluate the wide receivers. I think that's where I want to start stocking up picks. I feel really good about Eckler and Dameon Pierce. We probably just need one more solid running back 3 to compete with Dameon Pierce there for touches. But otherwise, I think I want to plug in a flex wide receiver. Christian Watson, Jared Judy off the board. We can take a peek and see what's available. Again, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert are the top QBs available. But look at the running backs falling. Sanders, Akers, Madison. Again, the receivers that I was looking at last time we picked are still available. Lockett, London, Godwin, Hopkins. I don't love these guys here. Dallas Goedert's probably my favorite tight end to draft. And because even though I have Devonta Smith, I'm still fine with drafting a tight end when I have a player from the same team. That really doesn't bother me that much. Other positions, it does bother me, but tight end, it's so whatever. I do love Deontay, Pittman, Mike Williams should be a little bit higher. And again, we have Eckler, Mike Williams. We could have a little Charger thing going on here. Christian Kirk could be nice. I see a lot of receivers. Jahan Dotson. I like Darren Waller late as a tight end as well. So maybe we lean into this and grab another running back here. Alexander Madison is top available running back. I'm personally not an Alexander Madison fan. I think the running back we want, though, from this group is probably David Montgomery, who I have ranked very highly. He is my RB16 in half PPR league. So he's probably my pick here. I'm not super in love with Lockett, London, Godwin. I'm going to like some of these receivers, I think, when it comes back to us. So I'm going to take David Montgomery. Let's get some exposure to that Lions offense. And in a half PPR league, that might be the format to get David Montgomery. We now have 3 pretty good running backs, Eckler, Dameon Pierce, and David Montgomery. Again, I mentioned I think we're going to like the wide receivers as we go here in the mid-round. So I'm cool grabbing 3 running backs here. And essentially, we're just going to have to continue to hammer wide receivers for a little bit. But I think the idea here, and especially in a half PPR format, I kind of want to collect 3 or 4 good running backs. So maybe we make one more pull at running back soon. But otherwise, waiting for QB allows us to really hammer those important positions at running back, wide receiver. And I think one of my number one rules I tell people, especially new people like Eric, who said this is one of his first leagues, is just because I have an opening at my quarterback and tight end does not mean I need to pick starters. I want to continue to hammer away running back and wide receivers. I value depth. When I'm done with a draft, I want to have a really good bench that has 1 to 2 options on the bench that I could pull up as my starters. That's for receiver and running back especially. If something happens to one of those guys, do I feel comfortable pulling up this next guy on my bench? That's kind of the thinking of the way I draft. So after I took Montgomery, you see Joe Burrow, DeAndre Hopkins, George Kittle. There goes Justin Herbert. And then this last pick of the 5th round here, we'll see what happens. But I like our draft so far. We have some pretty good players. I like the two receivers, Garrett Wilson, Devonta Smith. Those guys are both going to be, maybe top 10, top 12 guys. Eckler, top, she could be the number one back. Dameon Pierce does have top 12 upside, and he's our RB2. And then I think David Montgomery's also got top 12 upside if he gets a lot of touchdowns, but we'll get him as our RB3. Darren Waller, James Conner, Isaiah Pacheco. Let's go see who's best available. Yeah, Tyler Lockett's falling. Drake London. I love Dallas Goedert quite a bit. I also really, really like Deontay Johnson quite a bit. He might not be a terrible number 3 receiver for us. Michael Pittman Jr., Mike Williams. Let me see who I have here. I have Mike Williams at my wide receiver 19. Deontay Johnson's wide receiver 31. Drake London's wide receiver 27. In theory, I should take Mike Williams here. He's my highest projected player, but we can maybe go fishing and see if he comes back here. I think I feel pretty good about Deontay Johnson being a productive player. I love Dallas Goedert here, but I think in this strategy, I think we're going to wait and try and catch Darren Waller already went. So, all right, we're going to get Dallas Goedert on the team. We now have 2 Philadelphia Eagles, Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert. So, again, whenever my tight end is, I don't really care what team he's on. If I have Dallas Goedert and Devonta Smith, it's fine because tight end's the trickiest position in fantasy football. I don't care that I have teammates there. Tight end, I just want my 8 to 10 points. So Goddard, one of my favorite tight ends to draft. We just filled in our starting lineup essentially here. And now I'm hoping for one of these receivers to fall to us. I don't hate Mike Evans, but Pittman, Mike Williams, or Christian Kirk, I think would be really nice pieces to fall to us here. Lockett, Deontay, London, Swift, Pitts finish round 6th. Dalvin Cook, Kamara, Pat Frymouth. We'll see if one of those stud receivers fall to us as our first bench option. Jahan Dotson, Dak Prescott, and we are on deck here. So we get one of the guys that I was looking for. Mike Williams, Michael Pittman, Christian Kirk. I'm pretty happy with all these guys here. If you're nervous about putting Mike Williams on the same team as Austin Eckler, I get it. Maybe we go with Michael Pittman Jr. here, who I don't hate. Again, I know a lot of people are nervous about Anthony Richardson, but Michael Pittman didn't play with any great quarterbacks last year, so I think he's the number 1 receiver on the Colts. He's going to get targets. He's going to get opportunity. Otherwise, you can go with Christian Kirk here too. He's in a good offense. I'm going to take Michael Pittman Jr. here, but I think either one of these options, Mike Williams, Christian Kirk, or Michael Pittman Jr., are pretty fun bets to be at least a wide receiver 3 for your rosters this year. I took Pittman. If this was my team, I probably would have just taken Mike Williams. He's one of my favorite players to draft this year. And I know I have Eckler, but that doesn't bother me too much because I think the Chargers offense is going to be pretty damn good this year. So we now have 3 receivers, 3 running backs, and a tight end. So we have a well-balanced group here. I'm going to continue to draft running backs and wide receivers as other teams are still taking quarterback because I mentioned once you get this far in the draft, man, look at there's no difference. I have Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Anthony Richardson, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, Russ Wilson, even these guys are all projected around 300 fantasy points. So, there's not that much difference between them and the guys above them. I'm going to grab 2 of them. I'm going to play matchups. And then one of the other reasons why I grabbed Michael Pittman Jr. is because I really like Anthony Richardson. I was looking around at Tim Tebow numbers from 2011, guys. And Tim Tebow averaged 18 fantasy points per game for the Broncos that season. So if Tim Tebow can do it, Anthony Richardson can average 18 to 20 fantasy points with his legs. And again, if Jonathan Taylor's in and out of the lineup, to me that makes Anthony Richardson the best Colt to own in fantasy football. He only needs to throw like a touchdown per game. He doesn't need to do a lot passing because I think he's going to end up getting 7 to 8 points per game as a rusher. And anything he adds on top of that is gravy at this point. It looks like people are auto-picking defenses here, so that's a tough thing with mock drafts on Yahoo. They have defenses and kickers boosted way too high. But we're on deck here. Marquise Brown, I love Brian Robinson. I'm saying no to Damian Harris at ADP. Khalil Herbert's a popular guy right now. I do like a lot of these receivers down here yet. So I'm going to grab Brian Robinson, the starter, and we're on deck here in 5 seconds, but I'm going to grab Brian Robinson. He's one of my favorite guys to put on the end of my bench as my running back 3 or 4. I think he's got 1,000-yard upside in the Washington Commanders offense with Eric Bieniemy calling the shots now. he separates in half PPR from Antonio Gibson. So I'm going to go with B-Rob here. Even though Gibson's going to catch passes, I'll just collect another good running back. So I think I have 4 pretty good running backs: Eckler, Pierce, Monty, and Brian Robinson. Need to start hammering some wide receivers now. And I do need to pay attention to the quarterbacks: Daniel Jones, Geno, Richardson, Kirk, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, even Russell Wilson, to be honest with you guys. I'm fine with any of these guys starting for me most games, depends on the matchup, but I'm fine with all of these guys here. I do want to pull Richardson for sure. He's the one guy. I think doing this 2 QB strategy, grab Richardson, because I mean, if he hits, man, it's going to be pretty fun for fantasy football. So like a duo of, Kirk Cousins and Anthony Richardson, I think is a pretty popular one for me. But yeah, now we got the 4 running backs, we got the 3 wide receivers. Let's continue to grab at least one more wide receiver here before we pivot to QB. And I mean, Daniel Jones is actually popping up towards the list, but I like Gabe Davis. I like Jackson Smith and the Jigba on my bench, just in case one of the guys ahead of him gets hurt. And actually, that might be the best move here. I do like Gabe Davis quite a bit, though. He's going to be a good player for the Buffalo Bills. Half PPR, I think he looks pretty nice. I'm going to grab Gabe Davis here and get our first share of the Buffalo Bills offense. Let me look at the running backs here, see if there's any more guys that stick out. I think Kenny Gainwell is someone that I want to take later, and Jalen Warren. These are my 2 favorite guys to put on my bench in drafts right now. I think Gainwell's the best value of the Eagles running backs, and I think Jalen Warren just might be the better player over Najee Harris. Wide receivers, JSN. I like Brandon Cooks. I'm okay with Sutton. I'm cool with Nico. I love Sky Moore. Some other guys here. I like taking a shot on Zay Flowers late. After that, I'm not super in love with a lot of these players here, so we'll kind of sprinkle in some of these. If we can sprinkle in 2 more of the guys that I have starred here, I'm feeling pretty good about our wide receiver room. Again, we got 3 good ones. We just need maybe 2, if not 3 more. And yeah, quarterbacks not going off the board yet. Let's see where we're at. And yeah, these defenses and kickers are really kind of throwing off the mock draft vibe here, but we'll do our best. I should probably just take a quarterback and get him in there. So I guess the rule of thumb here in a 12-team league, don't draft a quarterback till at least round 10, because there's going to be some good ones available. And I mean, at 300 points for the season, I don't know what the top QB is going to be projected, but I don't know if there's that much of a drop off. I'm maybe only losing 2 to 3 points per game at the quarterback position, but in theory, my running backs, receivers are hopefully stronger than the rest of the field who had to reach on a QB. But here we go. After I took Gabe Davis, Rashad Penny, kickers, Jerick McKinnon, AJ Dillon, Daniel Jones, and Anthony Richardson off the board. Ouch. Damian Harris, Miami Dolphins. And then on the clock here is the guy in front of us. I suppose I should probably just pull one of these quarterbacks now. We got sniped on one of our guys. So I'm going to just take Geno Smith. I'm pretty excited about this group because DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, JSN, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. I think it's a good passing offense. I'm gonna start Geno versus the Cardinals both games. I'm gonna start Geno versus the Rams. We'll see about the 49ers, but locking in Geno, who was a top 5 QB last year, getting access to the Seahawks offense, I think is a priority for us. So we grab our first quarterback off the board, but I'm not done yet. I do want to grab at least one more QB. And yeah, I guess we missed the pull on Anthony Richardson, which would have been nice. But you can see round 10, man, that's where the quarterbacks can fall to us. Maybe, I guess, if these defenses and kickers weren't picked, maybe round 10 would be or round 9 would be the move to grab your first quarterback. So that's kind of the strategy that's working for us here. But I like our draft so far. Again, Garrett Wilson and Devonta Smith at the wide receivers. Those 2 guys are hopefully starting for us all year. Eckler, Damian Pierce at the top 2 running back positions. We can mix in, David Montgomery or Michael Pittman Jr. at the flex. Even Brian Robinson or Gabe Davis could be, competing for flex. So I like our bench right now. 2 receivers on the bench, 1 running back on the bench. Let me go ahead and look around and see who else is sticking out. Because I have Goddard, I don't need a backup tight end. I am going to make a backup tight end pick, though. We have 1, 2, 3 bench spots left here. So I think the move, let's see, we got 4 wideouts and 4 running backs. Is that true? Yeah, we got 4 and 4. So let's go ahead and get, for sure, 1 more wide receiver here. I want Brandon Cooks. That's the one that sticks out, a good piece of that Dallas offense. So we're going to grab 1 more receiver, and then I'll grab another quarterback. and then we'll about again. You don't have to grab a backup tight end when you have a good one, but there is one that I want to make sure you guys pull attention to. But we got 2 picks until we go. Dulcich, Charbonnet, Njoku, Nico Collins off the board here in the 11th round. Let's see what I can make here. Brandon Cooks to me is probably the best pick. I don't have a Dallas Cowboy on this team yet, so I do think that's an offense that's probably a top 10 offense this year. And it sounds like Brandon Cooks is actually having a fantastic training camp with Dak Prescott. So he would be my pick here. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind taking Kirk Cousins if I need to. Cousins is going to have a good year. So is Jared Goff. Either, if Cousins or Goff is your QB2 going into the year, I think you're feeling pretty good. Both those guys do have a ton of upside at the position. So, and they have easy matchups to play for the most part, both NFC North QBs. There goes Quentin Johnston. So we'll collect Brandon Cooks as our wide receiver 5. I think that's enough, receivers. We got Wilson, Devonta Smith, Pittman, Gabe Davis, and Brandon Cooks. That should be enough to get us where we need to go. So we have 2 more spots left. Quarterback, again, one of these guys as my QB2 should feel pretty good. And then the sleeper tight end that you guys need to start drafting with one of your last picks. He's all the way down here. Actually, I have 2. If you like Luke Musgrave, love Luke Musgrave. He looks pretty good for the Packers. But the guy is Jake Ferguson for the Dallas Cowboys. He is your starting tight end. Dalton Schultz has been a top 10 tight end the last 2-3 seasons, and Ferguson had a really, really good week 1 of preseason. He's locked in as the pass catching back for the Cowboys. So I love Jake Ferguson. I like Luke Musgrave. Again, I don't think you need to draft a backup tight end if you have a good one. Dallas Goedert is a pretty good one here, so it might be a burnt roster spot for us. So I want to shout those guys out. I'm not going to click on them. I'm going to probably grab maybe Zay Flowers here if I can grab a rookie, or actually, to be honest, we have to grab that backup QB next. So we're going to do that. After I took Brandon Cooks, we missed on Sky Moore. Sky Moore would have been one of those guys that I would have considered as my last receiver. New England D, Chigo Okonkwo. And then if you're someone that likes to play matchups with defenses, I am very much similar to you. I usually grab the Commanders defense. That's right here, Washington. They play Arizona Cardinals week 1. Don't know if we're going to get Clayton Tune or Colt McCoy as those QBs. So I've been grabbing Washington as my defense for week 1. Otherwise, I do grab the New Orleans Saints defense because I think they're the best defense to hold for the entire season. They have the easiest schedule this year. That's been my defense. Otherwise, week 1, again, Washington Commanders is probably the best move against the Cardinals there. Let's see what else we got going on. A couple tight ends off the board. Algier, Jameson Williams. Again, I'm going to grab a backup. I'm going to grab my QB2 here and just secure a decent tandem with Geno Smith, whether it's looks like Kirk Cousins just went. Did Kirk Cousins just go? Yeah, he just went here. So I'm going to grab Jared Goff if I can. He's projected the most yards. Looks like he's also projected the most touchdowns. And he's projected a little bit more interceptions, but that's okay. I'm pretty happy with Jared Goff here. So he'll be our QB2. We'll play matchups with Geno Smith. Their bye weeks are different, so it does pair up nicely. And I could take Aaron. I could take Aaron Rodgers and pair him with with Garrett Wilson, which could be a nice little stack. But I prefer Jared Goff here. I think that offense is going to be a little bit more high exciting profile in this because Lions don't have a defense yet. I know they got better on that side of the ball, but I think just being indoors, bad defense, Jared Goff's going to have to throw the ball a ton. So we'll grab Goff here, and then we have one more bench spot to fill yet. So here we go, Jared Goff. And then let's go back here and kind of just wait and see what's happening. Yeah, but otherwise, I I called out some defenses for you. NFL Week 1 schedule. Let's take a look here. Other defenses to maybe target week 1. Let's see. Minnesota, Tampa Bay is going to be kind of a weird game here. Maybe Minnesota takes care of Baker Mayfield. Maybe Jacksonville against the Colts. Maybe New Orleans, again, against Tennessee feels pretty good. I don't hate Pittsburgh versus San Francisco. Again, I really like Washington. I like Baltimore, too, against Houston. That's a good one. Maybe even Green Bay against Chicago. That one's not terrible. The Eagles versus the Patriots is a good one. The Seahawks versus the Rams, perhaps. And then, so not a ton of really good advantages week 1, but I do like some of those positions we mentioned. So let's see here. Yeah, I still have. Let me look at the defenses real quick. Defense and kicker should almost always be your last pick. Again, I mentioned I like Washington. I think Green Bay's okay week one. Green Bay's schedule is actually not bad to start the year either. Green Bay gets the Falcons, the Saints, the Lions, the Raiders, the Broncos. It's not terrible. But let's see what else sticks out here. I wanted Zay Flowers or Jalen Warren. Those are the top of my list here. I'm gonna grab Jalen Warren. I feel pretty good about the wide receivers we have, so we're gonna go into this with 5 wideouts, 5 running backs. Oh, and we missed. Did we just miss on Jalen Warren? Oh man, we got sniped. Okay. Let me see if there's any other running backs here that make sense. Not really. If we get any clarity on Josh Jacobs, if Josh Jacobs isn't signed yet, Zamir White's a good guy to stash. So if you're drafting this weekend, stash Zamir White if you can. Otherwise, I'm gonna take Zay Flowers here, who might be the best receiver for the Ravens. And our draft is pretty much done. I'm gonna grab a defense. I'm gonna grab a kicker. Let me shout out some kickers for you, Eric, if you're still with us. Atlanta's a good one. Young Hui Koo. Um, don't take Jake Moody. He's a rookie kicker for the 49ers. Jake Elliott's a good offense. Young Hoku, Jason Myers for Seattle's a good offense. Nick Folt's going to kick a lot of field goals for the Patriots. Jason Sanders is all right. I like Brandon McManus for the Jags. Greg Joseph for the Vikings is solid. Zerline for the Jets is solid as well. I really like the Saints kicker, Will Lutz. I think that's a pretty good stash. And then I thought the Lions had a kicker somewhere down here, unless he already got drafted. But yeah, those are probably the kickers that I'm looking at here. Let's see. Yeah, some of the kickers are starting to go off. Riley Patterson was the guy for the Lions. I like getting indoor kickers. That's one of the things that I personally look for. But it looks like we're going to get Washington or Green Bay for our defense. I don't hate the Bengals as a defense either. And honestly, when I play in leagues with defenses, usually I roster 2 of them. I want one defense that's like top 5 for the most part. Otherwise, I'm playing weekly waiver wire defenses. So we got Washington in there for us. We'll reevaluate defense as the season goes on, and then we'll make our final kicker here. I could probably get out of here with this though. If I had to pick one kicker here, maybe it's Greg Joseph or Will Lutz. Those are the 2 indoor kickers I'm looking at. But there you go. That's our team. Let me recap it here. We started with Austin Eckler, round 1. We came back with Garrett Wilson and Devonta Smith as our next 2 wide receivers. Went with a couple running backs here, Dameon Pierce, Dave Montgomery at the 4-5. Dallas Goedert, round 6. I love Dallas Goedert. I want Waller or Dallas Goedert at the tight end position. Those are my 2 favorite guys. If I can't get them, I'm making a total punt at the position. Give me, Jake Ferguson and another guy here as a duo. After Goddard, we got Michael Pittman Jr. Probably should have taken Mike Williams, though. Brian Robinson, Gabe Davis, got our first QB, Geno Smith, went with Brandon Cooks as our wide receiver 5. Jared Goff is our QB 2. Zay Flowers on the bench, Washington Commanders defense. And we'll just slap this kicker here, Will Lutz, for the New Orleans Saints. I think they're going to move the ball and play pretty well. But there you go. That's our draft, Eric. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. And if you guys ever want to do a mock draft with us, ESPN is where I do it Wednesday nights live at 6 p.m. So if you guys want to join us this week, 6 p.m., come about 15 minutes before the show starts. That's where I post the lobby link because that's when it opens on ESPN. So if you want to join us for that, we'll see you guys at 6 o'clock. So again, thank you for watching. Enjoy your night. Peace.